Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Wealth Conversation podcast with me, Tsitsi Mutiti. I guide high-achieving women on their journey to build lasting wealth so they can prepare for an abundant future in every area of their life. I hope that today's episode will help you to transform your relationship with money so you can make the choices that will enable you to create the opportunities and lasting wealth that you desire. Let's get straight into this week's episode. My guest for this episode is Nila Mistry. She is a financial planner, registered life planner, and certified money coach. Nila says that many people don't have access to financial guidance and then worry that they won't have enough to retire. Through her business, Prosperity Life Planning, Nila works with professional couples and individuals to get better organized with their finances, build and help implement a personalized financial plan so they can live a life of freedom without worrying about money and enjoy their future with certainty. Nila believes that because we have one amazing life, we all deserve that life to be happy and fulfilled. This comes more easily when your money and life are aligned. Welcome, Nila, to the Wealth Conversation podcast.
Thank you, Tsitsi. Thank you for having me here. I'm so excited. It's just such a hot day today.
I know it is. We're both melting, but I'm looking forward to this discussion. I really am.
Thank you.
Please introduce yourself to the listeners.
Thank you. So my name is Nila Mistry, and I'm a financial life planner, a certified money coach, and I run my financial life planning business called Prosperity Life Planning, which I set up just over 4 years ago. I live in Essex with my husband and my 2 kids, who are my absolute world. And I'm just so passionate about bringing joy and happiness and prosperity into people's lives, into my family's lives, all the people that I work with, so that they can just be better organized, with money and etc. through planning, having that life planning to live their best life, enjoy their future, so they've got some certainty, and just to live that life of freedom that we all crave. And I know that since I was a little girl, I've always been driven by that, just freedom to live how I want to live, and free from worry, free from any kind of pressures. And I think what happens is when I think about life planning and what I do and how I do it, I just get really excited that we have this one life, and and I really believe that we all deserve to live that life completely fulfilled, through our hearts. So, and that's a lot easier when our monies and our life are aligned.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I love that idea, that reminder actually that we only have one life, so we might as well live it to the fullest. And also that idea of having a plan. I think right now where the world is, a lot of us need a plan, right?
Yeah.
So much going on. Inflation is rising, interest rates are rising. We've come out of COVID and there's still issues lingering from the COVID pandemic. So I think a lot of people are looking for some sort of guidance. And you're right, it is essential that we all have a plan so we can live that comfortable life, live our best life. Now, I know you've touched on some of these already in your intro, but I wanted to tease out a bit more from you and ask, what are the main reasons why you believe we should all be planning for retirement?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And one of the most common questions I get asked every day, or, by most of my clients, is when I do our annual reviews, it's, they say, Nila, am I going to have enough? Will I have enough? And am I going to be okay? And I think what I realize is that, most people put all their efforts into creating this amazing life in their first half. And then they get to like 40, 50 or 60. And then they start to think, well, how am I going to continue to have the life that I want? How can I start working less? Or how am I going to make sure that I've got enough provisions for my children or my grandchildren? How can I create that legacy? And our lives are always in preparation, aren't they? And there's so many expectations ever since we're little. And I remember watching this video by George Kinder, who's like the father of life planning. And he talks about our lives in preparation always for that next thing. We, from the moment we're born, we go to nursery, we go to school, and then we are in preparation for college, and then we're in preparation for university, and then it's that big wide world where we earn money so we can have a lifestyle. And what I find is that if we don't think about these things now, it might not happen. So our role as financial advisors or planners is to really help our people understand that you will have enough, you will be okay. But that doesn't just happen on its own. It doesn't come knocking on your door and say, oh, yeah, it's all here. But it's only if you make that commitment to yourself to making these changes now that and making this a really big priority in your life, because we have ourselves now, and then we have our future selves, the people that we want to be in retirement, the life that we want to live, and all the things that we want to do. And it's the you now that takes the responsibility for our future selves. And and I'm hoping that our future selves will thank us for it today.
Gosh, as you were talking, I was just thinking, yeah, I wonder what my future self will be saying to me.
Yeah. And what that's about, it's just about just carving out some time. Because we're so busy all the time doing the next thing, very few people sit down and allow that time to reflect and think about what it is that they really want. And it's only when we just quieten our mind. Some people even struggle to have a cup of tea without scrolling on their phone. I'm guilty of that, but sometimes it's mindfully thinking, right, I'm going to have a cup of tea, or I'm going to have this glass of water, and just not think about anything. And it's only when our mind's quieten that we can start all the creativity, things start pinging, and it's just about noticing what that is and how it makes us feel. I know we all have our challenges. I've also had my ebbs and flows of things happening in my life, personal challenges, and it just means that I've not been consistent in planning for my retirement. But in the last sort of 7 to 8 years, I've managed to get that back on track. But all it takes is time for us to stop.
Yeah, I hear you. Now, you mentioned that question about, will I have enough? And I know every single person I come across is always thinking that and asking that question. But Nila, is there such a thing as having enough when it comes to retirement savings?
Wow, such a good question, isn't it? And that's the thing. What is enough? This is going to mean lots of different things to lots of different people. And I look at my parents and I see them, and their level of enough is, they have a roof over their head, they come from a working class background, and they have a nice house, they have a nice car, they can pay their bills, and my parents have enough money to be able to go on holiday. So when I see them and I see them just happy and comfortable, that's their level of enough. So and that's okay. So we all have different sort of meanings towards that. But in the past, I've always used this work, rest, play analogy. I feel a Mars bar coming on, but that's not the case. But I suppose retirement is a time in your life where the way you work is a choice and not a necessity. And what I'm noticing more, especially in this day and age, that people are wanting to have more time freedom to do something different. So traditionally, you'd spend a third of your life working, third of your life sleeping, and then a third of your life in leisure. So technically, you spend money when you're in leisure time and a little bit in your work time. But when you get to retirement, if you look at that circle, it's a third of your life sleeping and the balance of your time in leisure. And that time is yours. That time is yours to choose what you want to do. And if you look at the graphs, that 2/3, it makes you think, well, how much money am I going to need now compared to what I'm going to need in my retirement? So it shows that you'll need a lot more because you're going to want to do lots of wonderful things. Another way to look at it then is not necessarily asking yourself, well, what is enough? But it's about, well, when I get to retirement, what are the things that I'm going to be doing? How do I want to spend my retirement? You might plan on having an adventure or go traveling or travel the world. Or in my case, I want to go on the Orient Express. learn a new skill, or just tick all of those things off that you want to in your bucket list. And like my family, it's just about spending quality time together. But once you know how you intend to spend your retirement, that's when you can work out, well, what is it that I need and how much is that going to cost me? And what happens is, a lot of the time I find that one of the biggest mistakes that people make when it comes to thinking about or planning for retirement is not looking at what they've already got. And we worry more, we can't plan when we want to start working. We have these dreams thinking, oh, I'd love to be able to start work, I'd love to be able to have more time. And you can't imagine what you then want to do in the future. And it's simple. You need to know how much income you're going to have in your retirement, so it will give you the life that you want. And none of us wants to, downgrade our lifestyle, do we? Because we haven't got enough money. And this happens. It's coming back to the plan again. This happens if we don't have a plan. So instead of pushing to work harder, thinking it's the only way to grow money, it's just important to carve out some time, as I was saying, in your week, and make a list of what we have, and look at your finances as well, and not to shy away from looking at all of those numbers and getting really excited about what that will then deliver, and can it give you the life that you want? And if it can't, what needs to happen? What do we need to do instead? And then it's about us taking that action, doing something about it.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And that point about look at what you have. It's so important, because the number of times I've worked with someone and gone through an exercise to get them to pull out the statements and write down everything that they've got. And when they look at it, it's like, oh, I didn't realize that, especially pensions. A lot of people forget about pensions from, previous jobs, etc. And then they don't realize how much is actually sitting there. So it is so important to take that time to look at what you've got. And then you can start thinking about how can you make it work harder for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Just getting a handle on it. And like you said, we might realize that we've got much more set aside than we think. And then that big overwhelm goes away. And it's just taking that step forward to making us feel better. You feel better about you. It gives you more energy. You feel like you're in control, you're responsible. And it just gives you that headspace and freedom to start thinking creatively. Now I've got that sorted out. I'm going to focus on the good stuff. Where do I want to go with this, and what do I want to be doing? So
we all want to be focusing on the good fun stuff, not the boring stuff.
Absolutely.
No. So I mean, you've talked about setting aside the time and looking at what you've got, and then using that to start putting together a plan. When would you say is the right time to start planning for retirement?
It's a good question again. Do you know what? There's not a right time, is there? It's as soon as you can. I know that in life that's easier said than done, because there's always other commitments, whether it's a young couple trying to get on the property ladder, starting a family, or paying for your kids' education, and even work situation. We had a situation when my husband was in and out of work for a period of like 4 years, so that was really difficult. That was a really difficult time for us. So around that time, I found that I couldn't add to my pot, and that didn't feel great. But it was just a situation where we pressed pause for a little while. So the situations will happen, but that's okay. At the end of the day, you can still come back to it and not give up, because pensions aren't the only vehicle that you can save for your retirement. There are so many other ways, and it's great to get some guidance and support on that. But again, just be guided by how you want to spend your time in retirement, what you want to be doing, how you want to be living, how you want to feel, because it's all of those qualities that will prescribe what your plan should look like and how much money you will need.
I love that.
Don't wait.
And don't wait. Start. And I guess it's like any journey, right? Once you start, you're getting closer to your end goal. So it is about starting from where you are and just taking a step every day, or however long it takes you.
Absolutely.
Now, when we were talking about having this discussion, you mentioned about looking at your life in two halves. Could you share with the listeners how that helps when putting together a plan for retirement?
Okay, so I think the first step is, like I said, just carve out some time and be with yourself. Just understand what really is important to you, what matters to you the most, and when we start focusing on those qualities, we start to understand what our values are and what we care about in the world, with our families, in our lives, about ourselves, even how much we, love ourselves. And once we know what those values are, that's when we can start figuring out, well, okay, so what are my goals? So, one of my most important values is, for me, my kids are really important to me. I had quite a tough time having them. Before I had Milan and Layla, I had 5 miscarriages. So when I had my 2 children, they were my world. I wanted to make sure that I was there at the school gates, so that I could see their smiling faces. And knowing that that was really important to me, it was important for me to craft my work and my business so that I could be there for them and not feel guilty in any way. So then I knew that my goal was to have a business with flexibility. So my values were my children, knowing that I wanted to be there for them, but my goal was to have a business that was flexible. And then once you have that goal, it's easier then to say, well, okay, what needs to happen for my business to, run smoothly, efficiently? What are the steps I need to take? So in the same breath, it's important to know what your values are. And then we have our goals. And goals are brilliant because goals give us a reason to get out of bed in the morning. It motivates us, it inspires us. And once we know our goals, that's when we start looking at, our numbers. What is the financial reality? What are the numbers that we've got right now? Helps you make, your decisions, helps you gain perspective. It just gives you that confidence. So just writing out what you already have is really important. And we've spent so much time in the first half of our lives. We're constantly doing, like I said, in preparation for the next thing. So just having that time to do that, we're taking that responsibility and, putting emphasis that, we're going to be living for another 40, 50 years, maybe. Who knows? If you start doing this in your 40s, then, hopefully we'll live till 100. And we don't want to run out of money by then. We still want to put time into creating this now. So, I always say, don't leave it to chance. Always do what you can now and plan for it, because it's just going to make you worry less, and we have a better life, and life is for living. So I'm a firm believer in that as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And I guess, and so the second half is then the retirement phase.
Yeah. And we call it retirement. We can call it anything we like, really, don't we? What would you like to call it, Ditsy?
Oh, my best years.
Really?
I can't wait for retirement.
Yeah. So, and that is, it's just living your best years in the best way possible. And I think with that also comes, we look at money and we look at retirement and is it enough? But there's this also other piece about fulfillment, and the only way I can describe it is, if you imagine your heart, and one half of your heart is that I have enough money to do all the things that I want to do. But there's this other part of your heart that's all about that fuzziness, that feeling of feeling content, happy, and at peace, and knowing that you've done everything that you want to do in your life. And sometimes people forget that. People forget to dream. And it's only when you give yourself that space that you can sit back and think, well, what do I want? What did I dream about as a kid? What makes me truly happy? And when we stop and start carving out and putting as much importance on this second part of our life, that completes us. And that's where I always feel that, it's a gift. This life that we've been given is a gift. And, why should we waste it? We've got to make the most of it. When we leave this world, we don't leave with anything, no clothes on our back. What we leave behind is an essence of who we were and what we did, and that carries through to our children. And wouldn't it be great if they say, gosh, I'm so proud that my mum or my dad, lived the life that they did, because that just brings a smile to their face. So when we do that, it allows us to sort of think about that, because it's a long time, isn't it? 30, 40, 50 years, rather than feeling something's going to go wrong, or our legs are going to ache, or we'll get arthritis, whatever. All of those things start creeping in as well. So it's about doing what we can now and creating that wealth, growing it, still making our money work for us, to give us that life that we really want. So yeah,
I love that. And it's all linked to your true desires. And what you said was just so powerful, Nila. Thank you for saying that, because I'm sure someone listening to this podcast needed to hear that. Just be authentic about what you want in your life. And it's amazing how when you acknowledge that, everything else is so much easier and things start to flow.
Yeah.
It's no longer difficult to earn that money or make that money, because it's all in alignment with what you truly desire.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I love that. So Nila, in terms of your business, how do you support your clients? Could you share that with us briefly?
So the way I work is as a financial life planner. So it is taking the holistic view. So, deep dive into exploration, what matters to them, what's really important to them, and understanding what their values are. And then the next step from that is to then we can work through what their goals are and what their objectives are and what they're looking to achieve. And it's only after that we can start looking at all the planning. What did all the numbers say? Where are you? Where are all the gaps and the shortfalls? And if they've got enough, it's absolutely fine. Then they can continue to live that life and we go on to the next thing. But once we do a full analysis of the numbers, at least it gives them that confidence, just that financial boost and confidence as to where they are and understanding. And then it's about just crafting out a plan and creating a financial life plan in all areas of their life. And that's personal, business, children, family, love, wealth, in all areas, wherever they feel that they want to work on a little bit more. My clients earlier, just before I came here, what we found was, they were just not communicating together, and they all of a sudden we make assumptions about, each other. So, my female client said, "Oh, I didn't know you felt that way." And he goes, "Oh, well, maybe I gave you the wrong impression about it." That's what her husband said. So they've decided to have some money dates and go out for dinner and, talk more about things. So it's just about communication as well. So many things come out of it, and it's not just about the planning.
Yeah, that's so true. Normally the planning and the numbers are the smallest bit of the, of the whole process, right? It's all the other stuff that we take for granted. So I'm so happy for your clients.
I know. I think the easiest way to put it is it's finding out what they really want, making them want it more, and then showing them how to get it. That's the easiest way I can describe it.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, Nila, thank you so much for all the gems you've dropped. I'm definitely going to be listening back to this episode and taking notes for myself.
Thank you.
Now, as you know, I believe that to create true wealth like you do, we must all be clear on what wealth means to us in each area of our life.
Mm-hmm.
And I call these the wealth cornerstones. So in a few words, Nila, please could you share with us what wealth means to you in terms of your physical, mental, spiritual, social, and financial well-being?
Yeah, I love that, looking at wealth in all areas of your life. And health is definitely a massive one for me, especially now going into that sort of mid stage in my life and wanting to be around for my children for a lot longer. So yeah, health, to be wealthy in my, health is to be strong, lean, and knowing that I'm doing what I need to do to look after myself. So That's really important. Connection, community, conversations, that's really important to my mental well-being, and having people that I know that I have that emotional connection with. Trust, it's a feeling of belonging and empathy that's really important to me. Wealth, knowing that I can sleep at night, and that all my essentials are met. That me and my husband have income continuing into our 60s. We can go on holidays and enjoy spending quality time together. And under social and spiritual, I suppose that's love comes into it as well, to have that connection, smile, share, express joy, happiness, and also wanting to be around for my family as they get older and they need me, because as they they're getting into their 70s and 80s, and my grandmother is going to be 100 this year. So
fantastic.
I know. So I'm just so grateful that we have that time with her. So right now it's about spending as much time with them as possible, and at some point, for as a legacy for my children, to always continue to be inspired by me, and my husband, and for them to know that we did the best that we could possible in the situation that we were in, and just to leave this world feeling content and fulfilled. I think that would be the final thing.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that with us, Nila. Now, how can listeners who would like to work with you get in touch with you?
So I have a website. It's www.prosperitylifeplanning.co.uk. I'm also on all the socials: Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram under Prosperity Life Planning. And I also have a guide which explains my steps, and you can actually download that on my website too. So it's a really great way, because I've added some sense checks. So if you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed and confused, then it's just a free resource that might help somebody.
Fantastic. I'll put a link to that guide in the show notes for this episode, and it'll take them to your website. Fantastic.
Brilliant.
Nila, it has been an honor to have you on the Wealth Conversation podcast. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Tsitsi. It's been lovely to chat with you.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Connect with me at The Wealth Conversation on Facebook and Instagram so we can continue the discussion. Also, if you enjoy tuning into this podcast, make sure to leave a rating and review everywhere you listen to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Until next week, stay focused on becoming the designer of your financial future.